TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no rain with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop, and I'm taking it higher.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors. And it's Wednesday. You know what that time it is. It's tea time wagers with good friend and colleague, Mr. Brady Kannon. You know, last year we were the bridesmaid. I should say he was the bridesmaid so many times. And he comes out of the gate 1-for-1 in 2025. Hideki Matsuyama, what a performance. As Colin Morikawa said, bleeping 35 on what? And he was just lights out and an absolute masterclass in Hawaii. And we're staying in Hawaii, the Sony Open. And we'll talk what Brady's eyes see there. And I'm going to get his thoughts on the TGL last night. We were talking backstage. I thought they did a hell of a job, and as Brady said, for a Tuesday night, what the hell? There's nothing else on, so they did a good job. But first and foremost, of course, a shout out to our proud sponsors and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play. Download the app. It is free. Viva Tequila Seltzer, CT Bets Austin, second to none. 2 new flavors, lemon, and the East Coast is cuckoo for coconut. And of course, Atlanta Steaks and Seafood. Jump on over to Facebook. Follow Terry Smith. While you're there, head on over to atlantasteaksandseafood.com. Place an order today. Use the promo code STEAKS10. Get 10% off your full order there. 4 subscription packages there. What better way to start 2025 off than eating healthy? Click the box, and once a month, you got steak, you got chops, you got all those goodies. You never have to go to the grocery store. So we'll see you soon there. So without further ado, let's bring him in, Mr. Brady Kannon.
Mr. Dawson, happy Wednesday to you. Tea time wagers it is. And yeah, I'm feeling spry, man. We kicked off the new year with a winner. That was great. I was really just, obviously the money's nice and all that, but I was really hoping, like, boy, wouldn't it be cool to start the year with a winner? And I've come close there before. I've actually had a winner there before. I hit Cam Smith. I think that was 2022. Cameron Smith at Kapalua, who later that year went on to win the British Open at St. Andrews and was in the final pairing at Augusta National. And we talked about that, the connection, Kapalua, St. Andrews, Augusta, and Riviera. Very strong connective tissue between those courses. And it was part of what led me to Hideki Matsuyama, a Masters champion, won at Riviera last year, had that Sunday 62 to win the Genesis Invitational. And, he had done well at Kapalua in the past, hadn't done well in a few years, but had done well in the past, had the win in Memphis. We landed on him at the FedEx St. Jude Championship back in August, another wall-to-wall Bermuda grass course. And I said, okay, it just kind of makes sense. And bang, he was, Colin Morikawa, you shoot 32 under and can't win a tournament. That's pretty tough. But he continues to be a tremendous bet at that event, Jeff. The guy just finishes top 5. It seems like every year, Morikawa. No shame in losing at 32 under. That's pretty tough. But yeah, I was really happy to, and you talk about being the bridesmaid in 2024. It was funny to end the fall, the FedEx Cup fall. You famously remember I had 3 runner-up finishers in a row. And then we closed out the year at the Hero World Challenge, just like we did last year with Scotty Scheffler at a short price. Hey, I'll eat fine. No problem. Easy money. Scotty gets us a W. We kick off 2025 with another winner. We're going to see if we can make it. We had 3 runner-ups in a row. Let's see if we can make it 3 winners in a row.
And I was texting you Sunday morning. I'm the numbers guy. And one-shot lead. And again, obviously, Colin Morikawa is no slouch. And when I saw what Jeffrey Benson was doing at the Circa, and when I finally saw, maybe an hour and a half before they teed off, plus money on the no to Matsuyama, to me, that was a telltale sign that Jeffrey Benson was waving the white flag and saying, no mas, I think this is Matsuyama's to win.
You're so good at that, and you're a lot better at it than I am reading a market like that. I think I'm pretty good at reading markets in other ways, but you really have that knack to be able to kind of sniff out where the books are leaning. And I appreciated that text. Of course, I don't respond to anything until it's over. So excuse me for not getting back to you for a few hours, but I had to sweat out Mr. Matsuyama there. No, that was a great time, man. That tournament is near and dear to my heart. I always love, we've talked about it, kicking off the year with those incredible views. And I vacation there with my family. I have probably half a dozen times, and I've played that course a handful of times. So it's just, I love that place. It's really interesting, Jeff. I've played maybe 4 or 5 PGA Tour golf courses, and I seem to have picked winners at those courses. There's something about, I might have to go on tour here and play all these tracks, because it seems like when I know them better firsthand, rather than just studying them and seeing them and doing all this for decades, when I've actually been there and done that, I've had success at those courses. Kapalua being one, Sea Island in St. Simon's Island, Georgia. I've played there, and Mayakoba. Riviera Maya outside of Cancun, where now the Live circuit plays, but as late as 2022, they used to play the Worldwide Technologies there at El Camaleon golf course. And I've been there and picked a winner or 2 there as well. So I think I need to convince my wife that our next vacation is a run of PGA Tour golf courses.
Last night, TGL makes its debut. Rory and Tiger. Simulators, SOFI. You saw the other side of these guys. It reminded me of you got a group of guys on a Wednesday afternoon, Twilight League, going out there having fun, high-fiving. Now the crowd, of course, on top of them, drinking, have a good time, cheering, booing. Where today's game, I shouldn't say today's game, today's society is. We see what the Live Tour has done. I talked to you backstage about, the simulators, indoor golf. Hey, I'm back east and it's not even cracking 20 degrees. I can't go out even to a driving range now. What did you see and your thoughts on the debut?
I thought it was really fun. It kind of just came up on me without even knowing. It was just a couple days ago or something. They're like, hey, that's starting. I'm like, what? I didn't know when it was happening or what was going on. Didn't necessarily know that ESPN was on board to televise it. But bang, here we are. I flip it on a Tuesday night. Not a whole lot else going on. Certainly, I'm a college basketball fan, but I wanted to see how this went, and I thought the production was very good. I would have liked a little bit more play-by-play out of Matt Berry and the crew. I thought that would have kind of added some fun, but interviewing Tiger was cool. But overall, they were kind of playing through. They would run some ads on the side and still show you what was going on. I thought apparently the sponsorship is through the roof. It just seemed like you had some big boys getting involved. When Tiger speaks, people listen. The facility, which construction actually started, they broke ground less than a year ago, almost a full year ago, but February of 2020, was it 23 or 24? I can't remember, but not that long ago is when they started building that building, that facility that they were in last night in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. It was an incredible facility. The technology is through the roof. I mean, God, they were showing how they changed that green and changed the undulation, and that green had grain in it, actual grain, putting with the grain, against the grain, and Tiger talking about how you could spin it in this direction. And I mean, I love the little sand bunker, and boy, it was extremely impressive. And I think for a debut show, it was very good. Can it get better? Yeah, I think it could be twice as good. But what they have as far as the facility and the eyeballs and the crowd and indoor golf, I mean, we've got literally, I want to say at least half a dozen businesses here in Las Vegas. And it's actually cutting into my tee time business. We make tee times at regular golf courses, for people. I've done that for 25 years. And we noticed our numbers were down a little bit. And we said, what's going on? The indoor simulator golf is becoming so popular. People are opting for that rather than regular golf. And hey, I get it. It's fun. It's social. You have a couple drinks. It doesn't take as long. And now here we have it on the biggest stage of all, on TV, with Tiger Woods behind it. And I mean, God, that simulator, I mean, that's like the simulator you have that you go down the street to is like a shack in your backyard. And what we saw last night was the Empire State Building. That was unbelievable. My God, that's a simulator right there. Wow. So yeah, I thought everything was really impressive, and I think it can only get better. Of course, Tiger's going to be on the show next week, and then Rory, and I'm going to tune in. I'm intrigued for sure.
I thank you to YouTube TV. Yeah, if I'd love to sponsor, I'm looking for a sponsor here. I had the 4 boxes going. I had the 3 college games, and with the 4th box on ESPN and the golf, I had the volume on the golf, of course. I was very happy. And as I said to you backstage, I'm a purist, and I talked about the baseball game. I'm the guy that heads to Fenway Park. It's an event. So if it's a 4-hour game, I've sat through 16, 17 inning games on Father's Day. I'm not leaving with the kids like, Dad, can we leave now? No, I came here to see this game. And the golf, I'm not a 6-hour round guy, don't get me wrong, but being a purist, it was great. But that I sat back and I'm like, oh man, is this where we're coming to? And I know this is not what we're coming to. Magnolia Lane, the Masters, and I'm not trying to compare it, but for the actual product itself, the first week in January, they did do a hell of a job, Brady.
Yeah, I think, I mean, the live circuit talks about out of one side of their mouth, growing the game. Is live golf really growing the game? I think it grows the game. People tune in. Tiger, has moved the needle for years. We saw all the sponsor backing. We saw the production. The players bought in. As soon as Tiger, picked up the phone, they said, yeah, we're in. There's a lot of big names and companies buying into this thing, and the crowd and the production, everything that was going on. This, I think, is going to grow golf, certainly grow the interest in golf. This is going to, have the casual golfer go to their local indoor simulator and do all that and have a couple drinks with their buddies and hit some balls. That turns into them watching the Masters. That turns into them playing real golf. No, I think this is a very good springboard for growing the game and growing interest in the game of golf. So I'm happy with it. The better we can do for golf, the better it is, I believe, for myself, you and I in this show and betting on golf. And hey, that's another thing. You could bet on that last night. Our friends Gabe Morency and Keith Stewart, Mike Carver, all the guys at Sports Grid, they made money betting on the Bay Area team, the Bay Club, whatever they call it. Ludwig Oberg, Shane Lowry, and who was the third player there? Wyndham Clark. That was the winning. They crushed them 9-2. So, that you got to have the betting element too. we know that's massive. And the PGA Tour has adopted that from day one. And so hats off to them. And I like to see that people are putting up numbers on the TGL as well.
Yeah, and I'll close with the fact that Tiger made sure he said it 24 times. Guys, this is real golf. And this is real golf.
And they've done an incredible job of getting it as close to real golf as possible. They're hitting those approach shots off of real grass. They're hitting, if a guy goes in the bunker, they're hitting it out of real sand. They have a simulated I mean, everything's about and the technology's insane. Like I said, it's about as real as you can get. But then, converting it to a couple-hour TV show. And I mean, they've really done a hell of a job.
Sony Open, give us your breakdown, your correlation courses, defending champ, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, defending champ Grayson Murray, God rest his soul. We know we lost him to suicide last year, and that was really shocking because he was just starting to turn his life around, suffered from a lot of mental health issues and a number of other demons that he was battling, won that tournament, and you felt, okay, maybe this is going to help him turn the corner. So I expect it'll be interesting to tune in, and I'm sure there's going to be some tributes and some tough moments to get through. But I think it'll be worthwhile and special in honoring a young man that is unfortunately no longer with us. Made a huge putt on a playoff hole to beat Benny On and Keegan Bradley. This has been a tournament around since the mid 60s. It's a polar opposite from what we saw last week. You have this massive property. I think I heard on the broadcast that Kapalua, the plantation course or something, is over 400 acres. Unbelievable. What it takes to build a normal golf course is about 150 to 170 acres, and Kapalua is like over 400. Well, this is more standard. I don't know the exact acreage of Waialae Country Club in Honolulu. We go from Maui to Oahu, a little puddle jump over to another island here this week. But this course is small, condensed, narrow, tree-lined fairways with dog legs in both directions, small greens. Everything is condensed. About the only thing that is the same is you do have wall-to-wall Bermuda grass once again. Another similarity is the predictability is very strong. The correlated courses are very strong. Course history, guys that play well at the Century, guys that play well at the Sony Open. You see the same names, the same type of players pop up year in and year out. We talked about St. Andrews and Augusta and Riviera being very strong corollary courses to Kapalua. We have very strong correlated courses this week, and it's that smaller coastal, type of course. And not all of them are coastal, but Colonial Country Club, that smaller, condensed, dogleg, shot-making, accuracy-based type course. The Sea Island, the RSM Classic, Harbor Town, where they play the RBC Heritage, TPC Southwind in Memphis, where Hideki just won, who's also won the Sony Open. So it's, even Pebble Beach, maybe a little bit coastal, smaller greens. So there's a lot of real strong courses here. Port Royal Golf Club, where they play the Bermuda Championship. So we get a couple of weeks out of the gate where there's a lot of strong connective tissue where sometimes you can connect the dots and like we did last week, hopefully land on the right guy. Hopefully we're able to do that again this week, because next week when we go to La Quinta, California for the Amex, throw it all out the window. It's a crapshoot down there at the American Express. So we'll see if we can get one more before we start throwing darts next week.
Quick question before we get to your selections and recommendations here. Going to California, what is going on in LA with the Wildfires?
Yeah, gosh.
Is that tour, is the next few spots anything near there that would affect what's going on right now in LA?
Well, yeah, and thoughts out to those folks, and they had to stop basically trying to address the fire last night because the winds were so high, and the winds were pretty high here in Las Vegas too, not too far away, obviously, from Southern California. The winds are supposed to die down here in Las Vegas this afternoon. I haven't looked at what's going on in Los Angeles, but what really caught my eye, in addition to, people having to be evacuated, all that stuff. But from a golf standpoint, Riviera Country Club, Pacific Palisades. Okay, Pacific Palisades was one of the areas where people are evacuating their homes, and that's where Riviera Country Club is, where we will be at for the Genesis Invitational in roughly a month or so. I think it's a week after the Super Bowl, so probably about 5 weeks from now. But gosh, you just hope there's not any damage to that as well. That was one thing I was thinking about. But the Genesis, in my eyes, has always been one of my favorite events of the entire year. You know, Riviera is a major championship level golf course. You get a major championship level field. Tiger hosts the tournament. It's a beauty. So I hope that goes off unscathed. That's one of the things I was thinking about last night. And to answer your question, that would be the affected area coming up on the tour calendar.
Well, the tee box is yours. Let's go for 2 for 2, sir.
Let's do it. All right. So I'm going to start with my shortest shot, Maverick McNeely, the Stanford grad, got his first tour win not too long ago at the RSM Classic at Sea Island. So one of our correlated courses where he won recently. Also finished 12th back in August at TPC Southwind at the FedEx St. Jude, another correlated course this week. And then over the course of the FedEx Cup Fall, he had 2 top 20 finishes and a 6th place finish at Los Cabos, Tigers tournament down there as well. So, you know, the form is currently excellent. Also had a top 10 finish last week at Kapalua. Also, it's worth noting, Jeff, and it makes a ton of sense. 8 of the last 11 winners of the Sony Open played the week before at the Sentry. So you kind of get your island vibe on, you're feeling the time change. I mean, for some of these guys, it's a 6, 8, 10-hour time change to go to Hawaii. So you acclimate to that, the weather, the humidity, the surroundings. So I think it makes a lot of sense that guys that have been there for a week tend to have success in the current week. So I went with 6 guys that all played last week at Kapalua. And it's not just a short game. We know Maverick McNeely has one of the best short games in the world, but also over the last 24 rounds, 16th in this field for greens in regulation gained and 7th on the par 4s, measuring 450 to 500 yards. You got 12 par 4s this week. We go from a 7,600-yard golf course last week to a 7,000-yard golf course this week, and from a par 73 to a par 70. So much different here. We'll have 12 par 4s, 4 par 3s, and just 2 par 5s. So par 4 scoring is going to be important. And Maverick McNeely, one of the best here on those par 4s that measure 450 to 500 yards. And then you look at what he's done at the correlated courses, a 4th at the RBC Heritage. He's only missed 1 cut in 6 tries at Colonial. He's finished 10th, 11th, and 12th at Mayakoba. I talk about El Camaleon golf course in Riviera Maya outside of Cancun. Huge corollary here to the Sony Open. Patton Kizzire, Matt Kuchar, Russell Henley have all won at both courses, and that's another coastal accuracy-based golf course. And Maverick McNeely's done very well there. And then also back in 2023, a couple years ago, finished 7th right here at the Sony Open. Then went with Taylor Pendrith at 35 to 1, another guy that had a great finish last week in Kapalua, and another guy that just recently got his first ever win on the PGA Tour is back in July when he won the CG Cup Byron Nelson. And I think I'm seeing this out of a few guys that I landed on this week, Jeff. You know how it is when you get that first win, when you kick that door down, it just elevates your confidence so much. You realize that I'm able to play with these guys, and I'm in the club now. And I think we've seen it immediately out of McNeely. We've known he's had talent for years. His career's been interrupted by injury once or twice, but now you can see he's feeling it. Taylor Pendrith has, started to come around ever since he got that win. He's emerging as one of the better players in the world. You look at what he's done at the correlated courses, 15th at the RSM Classic, 2 top 10 finishes at Port Royal, and was 10th here at YLA last season. Last 24 rounds, he ranks inside the top 10 in this field for strokes gained approach. Birdies are better gained. And oh, by the way, he is top 3 on those par 4s from 400 to 450 to 500 yards. And also birdies are better gained. So, you know, I've seen his game elevate, and it started, I was on him last year at Torrey Pines for the Farmers Insurance Open. And I think it was a top 10 finish that he had there. And kind of been keeping my eye on this guy. Then he wins the Byron Nelson. He comes out in a signature event with the big boys at Kapalua, does well. It tells me that this guy's moving in the right direction. Then Harry Hall, you and I talked about him earlier in the week, UNLV Rebel golfer. He actually statted out very high on my board last week for Kapalua. And I was like, you know, is he the right guy here? And I stayed away. And sure enough, he did great. He played well, got out to a hot start, finished well. But I think he might be a better fit for this golf course because Colonial is a big connection for me here. One year I landed on Kevin Na correctly at the Sony a few weeks ago, or a few years ago, rather. And that was after he had won Colonial the year prior. Well, Harry Hall, you know, his coming out party was a couple of years ago when he contended, ended up finishing 3rd at Colonial. And again, a correlated course. And then it was last summer, he won for the first time, again, a first-time winner on the PGA Tour at the ISCO Championship. That was one of those alternate events. I think they were playing the Memorial. They were playing a signature event like that, and the rest of the guys were playing an alternate event, and Harry Hall won that. So again, confidence builder, winning that first tour event, showing up on a big stage, a signature event last week in Maui. Tremendous in this field as far as birdies, scrambling on the par 4s, and then also hole proximity from 125 to 150 yards. So you look at what this guy has done. I mentioned that first win in the summer. And then in the FedEx Cup Fall, he puts together finishes of 9th, 13th, and 14th. And then that's last week in Kapalua. The current form seems to be continuing. So I think he's going to, you know, be knocking on. I think he'll be in contention or making some noise once again this week. Tom Hoagie at 60-1. His first PGA Tour win, I remember well, I was on him at 66-1. Pebble Beach a few years ago, but again, a small coastal course, small greens, tremendous ball striker, great last week at the Century, top 10 finish, finishing 8th. He's got 2 top 20 finishes at Colonial, and I know he's played that course a ton because he went to TCU right there in Fort Worth, Texas. 2 top 10 finishes at the RSM Classic. He's got a 3rd at Mayakoba, and he was 3rd here at the Sony back in 2018. And then Cam Davis, like Harry Hall, Harry Hall really popped on my board last week. Cam Davis was a guy that I thought I might be landing on for Kapalua. He makes a bunch of birdies, is a big hitter. He seemed to fit that mold. I didn't end up landing on him, and I was very thankful because he was awful the first day. He shot a 73. Well, what does he do? The next 2 days, he comes back and rolls together 2 straight rounds of 64 and ends up finishing 13th for the tournament. So he really turned it on. He's never missed a cut here at the Sony. He's got a 6th and a 13th at TPC Southwind, a 7th and a 3rd at Harbortown, and a 7th at Colonial. Over the last 24 rounds, he's 9th in this field for birdies or better gained, and he's number 1 in this field on the par 4s that measure 450 to 500 yards. Also, you know how it is. These courses in Hawaii, their biggest defense is the wind. And it was dead calm for 3 out of the 4 days last week at Kapalua, and we saw what Matsuyama did, taking it all the way to 35 under par. The wind is supposed to blow a little bit here. I think it's going to be soft. I think these guys can throw some darts because they've had a little bit of rain, but the wind is supposed to blow 10 to 20 miles an hour, and I love an Australian player in the wind. These guys are some of the best in the world in the wind, and of course, Cam Davis, a proud Australian. And then finally, my longest shot on a man from Belgium, Thomas Dietrich, at 80-1, and he's another guy like Taylor Pendrith that flashed for me at the Farmers Insurance last year at Torrey Pines. Had the 54-hole lead, if I recall, and then kind of faltered off on Sunday. But this guy's really been playing well. He had 4 top 10 finishes on the PGA Tour last year. I think he's playing the best golf of his entire career. He is still yet to win. He's the one guy that I have here that doesn't have a win yet, but I can see his confidence building. I think he's got a tremendous game. Finished 5th last week at the Century. And I think he's going to roll that over and play well here again. He's had solid performances at Colonial, at Sea Island, at El Camaleon in Mayakoba, and he was a runner-up at the Bermuda Championship in 2022. And then you look at the flat stick. Over the course of the last 36 rounds, Dietrich ranks 4th in this field for strokes gained putting on Bermuda grass. The one concern I have is he's a first timer here. We haven't seen a debutante win at the Sony Open in many years. I think it was Russell Henley in 2017. So it's been a while. The rest of the guys have been here and played this course multiple times. Dietrich, the first newbie, but that's why he's 80-1 too. But I think the way this guy's going, the way his game is going as of late, I think he's going to be in the conversation again. I think all these guys are young. What's interesting about this field, Jeff, we're losing some of the star power that we had last week. But Maverick McNeely, Taylor Pendrith, Dietrich, Cam Davis, these are like those tier 2 guys. And there's 100 of them in this field this week, it seems like.
2-part question, then we're going to let you go. It's the start of the Pat Mayo one and done, $100,000 up top. He sold out again. It's one of these, you win, you collect their purse. So obviously to have a chance to win, you got to make the cut. But the problem in these one and dones, obviously the signature events, there's more money, bigger purses. And then of course the majors, but like a 3rd, 4th, 5th place in one of the smaller events that get you 50, 60,000 in a one and done event in 30 plus events here doesn't really, it's like missing the cut. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to ask you first, my partner, we got 2 swings here. Brian Gaskell just came in late. He says he's going to rewatch this. He likes your eyes with the Maverick McNeely there. There's a guy that caught my eye last week. And again, I wouldn't be using him. He got hot late, and he's known for a hot putter. What are your thoughts here? What do your numbers say with Keegan Bradley here?
Yeah, he was a guy I looked at long and hard. Obviously lost in a playoff here last year to Grayson Murray. I really like the way this guy is playing. And it wasn't just Kapalua, but you remember he won at Castle Pines in Colorado, part of the FedEx Cup playoffs. So I mean, the hot play's been going on for Keegan Bradley for a little while here. I ended up obviously not landing on him, but it's so hard to what is going to be the right week? When is he going to is he going to drop off a little bit this week, or is he going to continue to flash? I don't know the answer, obviously, but I think over the course of the long haul, this guy's the Ryder Cup captain, and he looks like he is running on adrenaline right now. Just, it seems like he is so jazzed to be the Ryder Cup captain. He almost looks like he's ready to make the team himself, not only as a captain, but a player. And I think that inspiration is going to carry Keegan Bradley for the next 9 months on tour. I expect a good year out of him. Obviously, again, you don't know if it's going to happen week in and week out, but here's another guy who spent last week in Hawaii, so he checks that box. I wouldn't be surprised at all if, top 10 finish, top 20. Yeah. Like I say, I think there's a lot to this guy just having this adrenaline, this inspiration about being the Ryder Cup captain. He looks like he's on a mission. Like he might play his way onto that team, and it kind of appears that way. So no, I'm with Bradley, not just week to week, but I think season long, Bradley's a guy to take a look at.
All right, final question that I'm going to have to you now every week is, and we're just going to play along here, Brady. Who it would be Brady Cannon's one and done this week?
Yeah, it's not my forte. years ago, I think we talked about this. I used to do this stuff where you had to pick them all before the season started. Maverick McNeely, the shortest shot here. This is not necessarily a game where you want to get too crazy with long shots. I don't know if you want to go with Thomas Dietrich. Now, maybe he wins the darn thing. That'd be great. But you're probably, I think, better playing it a little bit safer. Are you going to use Maverick McNeely anywhere else? McNeely can be extremely good at Pebble Beach. Went to Stanford, has had great finishes at Pebble before, extremely familiar with that golf course. So maybe you save Maverick for Pebble. That's a signature event, going to be playing against tougher competition. But he made his way just fine last week against a signature field at Kapalua. McNeely would be a look for sure. And I think after that, I might go to Cam Davis. Of all the players that I've played this week, I think you could argue that McNeely and Davis are probably the two classiest players, probably the two highest power rated players, if you will, of the six-pack that I'm on this week.
Brady, we can't thank you enough. We're going for 2 for 2, of course. We always end this segment by giving you a soft little lob. Tell everyone where they can find your written work. Of course, they know to go to Twitter at Las Vegas Golfer. And, of course, your Sports Grid appearances this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Golf.com has my article up there now, basically going over these 6 selections and just finer detail of what this course is all about. You can take a look at that at golf.com. And then 7:30 Eastern, and again at 10 p.m. Eastern, a double shot on Wednesdays. As always, I'll be on Sports Grid talking about this tournament, maybe a little NFL as well. I'll throw in a bonus for you, Jeff. I played a 4-team, 7.5-point teaser. Pays plus 170. The Chargers plus 4.5. The Bills minus 1.5. The Commanders plus 10.5. And the Rams plus 9. There you go. See if we can win that one too.
I love it. Brady, have a great day. Thank you so much. It's great 2 for 2 here to start 2025, and we'll catch up soon.
Thank you, my friend.
Brady Kannon, go follow him, of course, at Las Vegas Golfer. Make sure you jump on over to the Sports Grid and watch him tonight as well, and throughout the weekend. Maybe, just maybe, I'll be back with him and Adam Kaufman on Saturday. We go to a quick commercial break. When we come back, Mr. Tyler Wyatt will be right back.
Jared, hey, we're going to need you to tone it down with the Summer Friday thing, okay?
What are you talking about?
Well, for one, it's not summer anymore.
Oh, really?
Coconut. Also, who is this?
I'm the caddy.
Oh, he's my intern.
Sorry, intern. I'm his intern.
Yeah, he's doing a great job.
No golfing in the office, okay? Summer Fridays are over. You can keep the Hawaiian shirt, but the rest of this stuff, all right? Are you grilling?
Oh, yeah. Did you want a burger or a hot dog?
No, grilling in the office.
That's a good point. We should take this outside.
No, that don't. You put that right back down.
Yo, it's all in the hips.
Oh, dude, come on, we gotta go. Let's go.
We go from Hawaii to the hardwood to college football Final Four. Good friend, Mr. Tyler Wyatt. What's up, team?
What's happening, JD?
I guess the world's ending. It was kind of funny yesterday. Actually, let's go back 2 days at night when everyone's running to the window. Florida -1 last night, and gets steamed to 3.5 against number 1 undefeated Tennessee Vols. First flash 9-0 Florida. Thanks for playing, Rick. You shouldn't even have showed up. The Vols didn't show up. Was it the Vols or is Florida number 8 in the country someone we should be reckoning with?
I think Florida, there was a lot of defensive frustrations in that trip to Lexington, Kentucky, putting, buck-06, tough road loss there. Obviously, Rupp Arena, a tough place to play. I think, some of that was Todd Golden's, ability to get that team to buy into playing, better defense. It's a Florida offense that wants to get up and down the court, expected them to kind of dictate tempo. Got out to a big, 12-0 lead, and essentially Tennessee was done, after the first media timeout. I was surprised by the lack of fight in Rick Barnes' team. That's a team that typically, even in games that they have lost over the years, they get behind early and they still make a game of it. This was a team that just laid down there. I was pretty disappointed. Obviously, when you struggle with open shots, this was a Florida team defensively that you could look back at the Kentucky game and say, well, how can you be a good defensive team, give up over 106? Some of those were contested shots. Tennessee could make a contested shot, a wide open shot. They could make the bunnies, the layups. They couldn't hit. It was just probably an anomalic shooting night for a team that, for most of the season has shot probably above what we were expecting. Chaz Lanier, transfer from North Florida, has been kind of the catalyst, the guy the engine behind that offensive, kind of resurgence that we've seen. Tennessee, notably, Rick Barnes, notably, defensive coach. Tennessee, the last 4, 5, 6 years has been in the conversation, of being one of the best defensive teams in college basketball, and that hasn't changed this year. When you consider how bad the offense executed last night, it was a pretty good performance by the defense to keep Florida where they did. When you shoot, at one point that it was a Florida defense that kept Tennessee. There were 4 of 28 at one point in the first half from the field. You have to tip your cap to Florida there. They did play a stifling type of defense. I think a lot of that was probably some frustration by that coaching staff and by the players of Florida for kind of letting Kentucky score at will. Their offense kept up with the Cats. It was kind of a flip-flop scenario there. Florida on the road jumps out to a big lead last week, and then Kentucky, claws its way back and makes a game of it. This was if I look back to last week, I don't think this is a Florida offense that you can expect to score 90 or 100. It's also a Florida defense that I don't expect to have teams, under 50 most of the time. But somewhere in the middle, I think, is where that Gators team is. At home, the SEC has just been really good. A couple of days ago, before conference play started, over 170 total games played by the SEC at home, 3 losses. And a lot of that is non-conference. A lot of those, they were big favorites. Some of those were against, okay competition. But the fact that you play, north of 170 games as a 16-team conference and only have 3 losses, I think you have to tip your cap to the SEC this year. The bottom of the SEC, LSU is the team, South Carolina. Everyone else, potential tournament team. And I'm maybe not leaving LSU and South Carolina out completely yet. They have a lot to prove. I don't think they're quality team. I have them outside of my top 120. But this is a conference, I think that 10 is probably the least amount of teams we're looking at getting into the big dance, and as many as 12 or 13, I think, when it's all said and done. You have to road test in the SEC this season. Their wins are going to be hard to come by. You're going to have to hold serve at home, pick up a road win here and there when you can, and they're going to beat up each other. The win-loss record for the conference wouldn't surprise me at all if, from first to 8th place, maybe you're separated by 2 games. So this, be a lot of teams with similar records. Rick Barnes in the postgame said he wanted to forget this one. It was a forgettable performance. This one game has no bearing on what happens for the rest of the season. And I think they would be smart to quickly forget this one. It was a tough road trip, big quality win there for Florida, but you don't have to look too far to find some other teams that were in similar positions last night. Kentucky short chalk there on the road at Stedman Coliseum in Athens. Go down to Georgia. Georgia pretty much dominated that game from start to finish. Kentucky cuts it to 7 there, I believe, at 55-48, and Georgia goes on a run to stretch it back to 13. Never looked back. It's a really, really good conference. I think easily the number 1 rated conference in our metrics, and probably anyone that looks across college basketball and across the landscape. I think at this point you have to agree that it is the most complete conference in the land.
before we jump ship over to football, two more questions. I'm going to go out west for a second. I was on Sports Grid last night, and the producer sends me, hey, any plays that you got around 2 o'clock? I got to get them in by 5 o'clock. You ever go to the window and you place a wager, and next thing you know, the line goes down a half point, and you're like, oh, geez, here we go. And my point is, UCLA went from 3 to 2.5 during the afternoon and evening. We had the money line, and UCLA bad first half, great start to the second half. UCLA back in their glory days would have a sluggish first half, and then next thing you know, they start the second half on an 8-10-0 run. They did it again, and they took a 3-point lead. And Dusty May and this Michigan Wolverines, who were out west and just beat USC, couldn't miss. They couldn't miss. And next thing you know, you blink, it's a 10-point lead, 18-point lead. Thanks for playing. Give us where you got this Michigan Wolverine and Dusty May team.
They were one of the teams that I had the hardest time, before we saw any meaningful basketball anyway, going into late October. They were one of the hardest teams for me to handicap because there were so many unanswered questions. Early part of their schedule, they didn't really get tested. They had a trip against a good friend of mine in Steve Forbes at Wake Forest. Wake Forest beats them in a tough one there. It was a game that I thought that it was a chance for Michigan to come out and kind of make a statement. They get TCU at home, a TCU solid team over the last couple of years, tournament team. Most years, Jamie Dixon over the last couple of years has had them in some good positions. Big win, and then they just weren't tested. This is a Michigan team that has improved literally, I think, game by game, not week by week. And this was a test. Yesterday, I was on the wrong side of this one. I thought UCLA was the proper side, regardless of where the number closed. We played it similar position as you. You have to tip your cap. Michigan, I think, has proved a lot of people wrong. This was not a team that I looked at least in October, and thought they were going to be a ranked team at any point. I thought this was a team that would have to, they would have to overachieve, maybe just to flirt with making a tournament. I had them kind of outside in the early forecast of being, I didn't have them as a serious tournament contender. But what they have done offensively over the last couple of games, couple of weeks, this is a team that, they can beat you from deep. They can beat you in transition. They can go big and go down and get points in the paint. And when they play defensively together, they're a really, really good defensive team. This is a UCLA team that I thought could score, into the mid-80s or upper 80s in this one. And they had to go out on that run you mentioned to start the second, just to get to, into the 70s. This was a dominating performance. This is this is one of those wins you're going to look back when seeding comes, in late February and early March. And we'll have to, obviously, a lot of basketball to be played between now and then to see where Michigan is. This will be one of those marquee wins that you can put up there. This is about as good a performance as you could have hoped for if you're a Michigan fan. This Michigan team that, so far has proven me wrong. I was wrong about them. You have to give them a look, I think, from here on out, not only in just making the tournament, they're a serious contender to win the Big Ten.
All right, before we get to the Final Four in football, I'm not doing my justice if I don't bring up my UConn Huskies. Watching them specifically because McNeely out for the month of January with a high ankle sprain. That was like the one guy that was blossoming, keeping this team together. But in comes, and I had talked to you a couple of weeks ago, the transfer from St. Mary's finally stepped up, had a big game. And it's funny, they traveled to Villanova. So getting back, the Providence up 6 or 8 at halftime at Stores. Big second half by Hurley and UConn. I think they scored 55 points. They take care of business here. Now they travel to Villanova, and it was funny. I was doing the show last week, Tyler, and the 4 factors on I think we actually talked about it. They had Villanova like 4th, and I'm scratching my head here. I'm like, well, this is going to be not just an outlier, a misprint. And Villanova finally woke up over the weekend. UConn travels to Villanova. Overnight number -2.5. I saw everyone on social media buying UConn money line. It is now since moved. Villanova right now -1. I'm worried here. I'm worried because, hey, it's a road test, as you talked about. You got to protect home court, and you got to pick your spots, as you said, on the road. Give me a breakdown here of UConn Nova without McNeely. I mean, if you Venmoed me 100 right now, I think I'd be on the Wildcat side. I'm probably wrong, but that's just what my eyes are saying.
Yeah, I was just looking. My number on the game is UConn almost 1.5. I got UConn 1.4. I think they can slow down Dixon enough that they are in this game. Obviously, tough place to play. Villanova's been as up and down as anyone just about in college basketball this year.
Yes.
DR, I think, can do some things in getting others involved. This is obviously an offensive team. Has kind of been by committee. I guess Caravan has been the leader, maybe. I've probably caught all but maybe 3 Connecticut games this season. It's a Villanova team. They're Dixon. They have other guys that can step up and give you 8 or 10 here and there. But if you can slow him down, if you can keep him to 20, which is a good night, in game in and game out, it's a guy that, is capable of scoring 25 to 30 at the drop of a hat. You slow down Dixon, you slow down Villanova. This is a Connecticut team I think is at their best when they're in transition, when they're playing at kind of a track meet type of speed. This is that you go back to that Gonzaga game. They got out to a big lead early. They were when you're hitting shots, obviously it's easy, but that's a team I think when they're most efficient, they play at a little higher tempo than most teams. I think on the contrary, this is a Villanova team that's probably at its best when they dictate tempo and they can slow everyone down. So it's going to be an oil and water mix here. I do have the total 156.5 rounded. So I have a 81-79 type of victory for UConn. I think it's a Villanova team though that will be uncomfortable if they have to play a game into the upper 70s and low 80s. It's a Connecticut team. I think if you focus on slowing down Dixon, you can get to Villanova and get out to a lead. And it's a team Dixon is capable of going on a 6 or 8-0 run and bringing his team back. I just don't trust anyone else on that team to go and really put up points. It's a Connecticut team. If they shoot the ball reasonably well, I think they win this game. It's a tough environment, one of the best in all of basketball. You go see a game at Villanova. It's one of, I think, the top 10 basketball arenas in the country. Atmosphere will be tough. I don't think that bothers Connecticut at all. I think they actually probably prefer that chippy kind of environment. I don't think that would be an issue. Connecticut, they hit an expected amount of shots. I think they win this game. It won't be an easy victory, but I think they keep Dixon contained. Caravan does enough, and I think they come out of there with what'll be a quality win. Where Villanova is at the end of the season, unsure at this point. They're a big giant question mark on my board. UConn, I think they're closer to top form than they were. Obviously, missing a key piece would be a big. That number is probably closer to UConn 2.5 or so if he's healthy. And in my model, it's probably closer to 4. This is a Connecticut team that can win without him, and I do think they get a tough one tonight.
Final Four college football. First game, of course, tomorrow night. I don't want to say the appetizer before the main event here. Penn State, Notre Dame. What Notre Dame has done since week 2, the 28.5-point favorites against UNI. We've talked at length. A playoff game every week, and they just seem to have gotten stronger and stronger. Opened up 1.5 points against favorites against Georgia. Georgia steams to 2-point favorites. Notre Dame closes as a favorite. It was a dominating performance, I thought, by Notre Dame. I talked all season long. Georgia never replaced Ladd McConkey. They never replaced Brock Bowers. No Carson Beck. In steps the Penn State Nittany Lions. Business as usual. One of these 2 teams will be playing for the championship. I was a little surprised, Tyler. After what we saw from Notre Dame, and the expectations of the Penn State Nittany Lions and James Franklin in a big spot. Notre Dame only opened up 1.5 point favorites. Thoughts on Thursday night's game?
Yeah, I mean, these two teams are about as even, going up and down our metrics, offensive and defensively. They really are. Notre Dame is the number one team in our rankings in EPA rush. You have a top 5 defense in Penn State against the rush. You have a Notre Dame team that in dropback scenarios, top 25 team. Penn State, top 10, they're 7th against quarterbacks that like to drop it back. This is a team defensively. Notre Dame has been at the top of our metrics since that week after that Northern Illinois upset. This is a team that has improved all but 1 week. They've improved in pretty much every measurable metric that we use. They're top 5 against EPA rush, EPA dropback, their ECHL defense and ECHL rate. They're the number 1 team in our rankings. Our number on this game is Notre Dame 2.7. So when that opened, Circa opened 1-50. We did make a limit bet there. We made a decent sized bet on Notre Dame. Saw it go to 2. It's bounced around 1.5 and 1. Got back to 2 briefly during the week at Circa. Totals dropped like a rock. Opened 50 and dropped every single day down to 45 now. Our total on that one at 49.5. Fair amount of value there. We played over once it got to 45.5. Wish I'd waited and got 45. May still take some more. This is a Penn State team. No disrespect to Boise State. Tremendous year. One of the best and most electric players in GT. It's a team that, Penn State wasn't really tested at all. Notre Dame, the first half, if you watch the half and the score at the half wasn't indicative of how everything played out on the field, but the way that they started the second half and continued and finished that game, completely different. It's a Notre Dame defense has been really good most of the season. It's a Penn State offense that's been much improved. It's a team that, for the last 10 years has really struggled in their passing attack. Completely different team this season. What Aller's done has been phenomenal. But I do trust our number here at 2.7. This is, obviously when you're talking, 1.5, and 2 point models, it's just over a coin flip in my opinion. But I think Notre Dame gets the win. I think their defense can do enough to slow down Penn State through the air, force Penn State to run. It's a Notre Dame team that gets a big piece back at the running back position. I think that helps them stay a little more balanced. You don't have to rely on Leonard running the ball as much. But yeah, you mentioned, I don't want to say it's the appetizer either. But this, I think, is going to be one of those kind of ugly games to watch. The Notre Dame and Georgia game was pretty ugly. This one, I think, is played, into the low 20s there. 20. Our projected final is 25 rounded 23. So we're, it's not going to be electric. I think the Friday game is the one, if you're looking for offense, that's the one I think that you could look for. But yeah, we get a good solid defensive game, I think, on Thursday. And then on Friday, there should be plenty of points.
Well, and it's funny, on Friday, we had Calvin Smith on. Calvin has 2 parlay tickets. He put let's round it up. He put $15,000 3-legged parlay on the Tennessee Volunteers to win the College World Series in baseball, and that's after they lost game 1 there, and he had a plus 160 or 180 on Scotty Scheffler to win the Travelers, and his final leg is Ohio State football. He's a diehard Ohio State Buckeye fan, to win it all. And the big parlay, I think, pays like $425,000, and he's got another one for $75,000. As you know, I trust and respect opening numbers. I followed Jeffrey Benson and the circuit to a T. The no on Ohio State to win it all is at plus 105. And it's almost like waving the white flag, like saying, all right, guys, come on. We're looking for some no's. I'm not running to the window to lay the 5.5. I said to anyone that wants to get in now, I would just take Ohio State to win it all versus trying to get cute here. And Ohio State wins by 3 or something. What do your numbers say, and what are you expecting on Friday with Texas versus the Ohio State?
Yeah, I have 6.1. I had 27.3, 21.2 projected final. So total there, what's 48.6 roughly. Total opened at 54, only moved down. We've seen it move to 53, and it's stayed there. The number circa opened 6.5. We've seen pretty much every number between 6.5 and 5. Currently sitting at 6 and 53. Pretty in line. Not a play for us there, at least on the pre-flop. We may look to get involved there live early. Maybe Texas wins, defers, Ohio State goes 3 and out, and we see that number go to 3.5. May look to step in, somewhere there. But yeah, this is a game that, at least as far as the market, pretty in line with where we are. So we'll respect that. Should be a good game. This is an Ohio State team. Yes, I see why that no price is where it is. Just, recency bias plays a large part in recreational bettors. So they see, Ohio State, Tennessee dominance, Ohio State, Oregon dominance. All right, well, they're just going to dominate the rest of the way. This is a Texas team that is capable. Ohio State in the red zone here will have to convert touchdowns. Texas has been, I think, one of their strengths. When they've allowed teams to put up yards, when they get inside the 30, they are really, really good at forcing teams to settle for 3 or go for fourth down conversions, and they're a really good defensive team against fourth down. This is an Ohio State offense, has the best wide receiver crew. I mean, top to bottom, they have the best wide receiver group in all of college football. They're healthy now. This is a team that's played with kind of renewed I don't know how much the Michigan loss has to do with this team effort that we've seen. I know from Ryan Day's, or at least I imagine from Ryan Day's perspective, it was, guys, we got to win because I'm going to get fired, and you're going to be looking, all you guys that committed to play for me are going to be, looking to see where we go next. But what Ryan Day after that Michigan, you're pretty tied into the Ohio State program. I know a number of people that listen and follow the show are Buckeyes fans. There were a lot of people in Columbus and the state of Ohio that were on the fence with Ryan Day. Some were already pushing and packing the bags. Others, I think, were holding a little more reserved reaction. I thought Ryan, I have a great deal of respect for what Ryan Day has done. One, stepping in and taking over for Urban Meyer and taking over, one of college football's greatest programs. A lot of pressure there, obviously. I think he's handled it as remarkably as anyone could. My next question would be, who do you get? He is, in my opinion, one of the top 3 or 4 coaches in college football. I don't think you can just say that there's anyone that is an immediate upgrade. I know that when you lose to rivals, there's a lot of pressure. That's just a part of sports. National championship will make that Michigan game seem like it was back in the Bo Schembechler days. This will be a game that no one talks about. It'll be college football, baby, college football champion. It'll, all that'll be cured. And I do think they get a win against Texas. The number there, not a playable one for us, but I think they scored just enough. And I do think we see an Ohio State Notre Dame matchup. And I'm in the footprint of the Southeastern Conference, not one that the SEC fans around here or Tennessee fans or Kentucky fans that I speak to on a daily basis are wanting to see. But from a national perspective, national story, Ohio State and Notre Dame would be, 2 historic teams matching up in the first ever expanded playoff. I think if you're the script writers there, you're pretty happy with that product that you put out there. I don't want to see Ohio State Penn State because then it's going to be Big Ten. We've heard about the SEC. I hear about it on a daily basis. And I don't want to say that I'm an SEC homer. I'm supportive, but I just don't want to see Penn State Ohio State rematch. Give me Notre Dame and Ohio State, and Ohio State wins a natty. If I can. I think Circle put up exact. If you could play that exacta right now, give me Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Ohio State wins it all.
Before I let you go, what is your Ohio State Notre Dame number? Is it around 3.5?
I have Ohio State. I have Ohio State 3.3, projected total of 46, just over 46. So not terribly out of line with what most books have put up in a future look ahead line. I would play Ohio State. I think anything – I would like to get it at 3. I don't see that maybe we get there, but would maybe look at even playing 3.5. I think they are the best team right now, most complete team, and would probably, I think would at the end of the day would have to play Ohio State.
Tyler, can't thank you enough. Look forward to coming back next Wednesday, recapping that. And of course, we'll be talking the title game, of course, in football. And then we'll really start to pick up some action in the hardwood of the college basketball. Everyone knows to follow you at Tyler Wyatt Bets. Go crack some aces, my friend. Best of luck this week and weekend, and we'll catch up with you next week.
Thank you, JD. Look forward to it next week.
All right, you take care. Tyler Wyatt at Tyler Wyatt Bets. Go follow him on X at Odds Culture as well. We're going to do a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll wrap it up. Please, please, please stay tuned. We'll be right back. TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app. Great show as always. Brady Kannon kicks us off as we talked a little about the TGL last night and a great debut by Tiger and Rory and their indoor golf at SOFI and his thought process on the Sony Open. As we stay in Hawaii in the PGA. And then, of course, Tyler Wyatt at Tyler Wyatt Bets following up, talking some NCAA hoops as we're getting closer and closer to March Madness. Conference play really picking up now. And then, we got a couple more weeks left of college football. And then, of course, the NFL playoffs and the Super Bowl. Then it will be full court press on the hardwood for the college hoops, conference championships, and March Madness. 5 o'clock, myself and Riley Magnuson will be back for the closing bell. We'll get you caught up on today's market, give out a few recommendations and selections, and tell you what our eyes are seeing. So for myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, Brady Kannon at Las Vegas Golfer, and of course, Tyler Wyatt at Tyler Wyatt Bets. We wish everyone a blessed day. Behave yourselves, and we'll see you soon.